tonight's discussion, this thing called M2M. So I thought, well, as a way to explain M2M, I'm going to give away tonight, we're giving away M&Ms. That's the giveaway, so if you stay until the end, you get a bag of M&Ms, okay? No, actually, M&M, a better term is emerging devices. So we're seeing these devices everywhere now. So tonight, I'm going to introduce our moderator, who's come tonight from Discrete Wireless. An interesting gentleman, Mark Roberts. And Mark has got quite an interesting history. He's worked for Polycom, 3Com. He's also went to a university in England. And when I lived in England, and there was this place right in London, and it was a square. And as you're an American, we could always tell if you were an American, because they would call it Leicester Square. And it's not Leicester Square, it's Leicester, which is where Mark went to college and university in England.
Thank you for the introduction. I do have a quick question, though, for members of the board. Bob, so when you say that you're working late tonight and your spouse asks you where you are and you respond with WTF, how does that go down generally? Just kind of curious. It is, got it. If you didn't get that one, just give it a middle. It'll settle in, or ask the guy next to you that's actually sniggering into his drink. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. We've got 4 panelists. We're going to talk about MTM, but I just wanted to kind of set the scene a little bit first. And we were very impressed with ourselves and the amount of market share we had and the size of the market and market penetration. So we kind of brand around stats of like, wow, you got 33% of the companies out there are actually using voice over IP. I'll get back to M2M in a second, just in case you're thinking I'm way off piste here. And you kind of talk about, well, VoIP penetration, 79% by 2013. Wow, 79. It's a lot. We're really pleased with ourselves. 3.9 million phones. God, that's a lot of phones. How many 18-wheelers does it take to ship 3.9 million phones? And then to top it all off, you've got a lot of very interesting companies in it. The 2 leading companies are really Cisco, Microsoft, as they vie over market share, and they want to own your company's network and own the communication structure for it, want to be the market leader, and own a lion's share of your annual IT spend. And in actual fact, there's a lot of very interesting companies that you kind of got Avaya, pretty big. I mean, they're in the multi-billion range. Polycom, as I said, where I came from, IBM, Cisco, Vonage, Google, all vying for this space that we talk about unified communications. That was the world I came from. But the one stat that really stuck in my mind was 79% penetration by 2013. So now we look at the wireless marketplace. And I stole some of these slides and quotes from my good friend Glenn Laurie from AT&T. Well, actually, he's not a good friend. I've never really met him, but I thought that might sound more impressive to this audience. But when I do meet him, I'll thank him for the slides. Now we're talking about 107% penetration. How can that possibly be? How can you be 107% penetrated in any marketplace? Well, if you've met Scott Magus at the back, and you'll know that he's got 2 or 3 of these devices attached to him all the time, he breaks into a cold sweat if any one of those devices, the battery on it drops below about 20% because he thinks he won't be able to communicate to somebody or call them on network. But I think there are about 6 billion people on the planet, probably 7 billion by the time this hits, or 8 maybe. 50 billion devices? So what are we going to do? Carry around like 8 or 9 of these things? They'll be our cars, our fridges, etc. So the marketplace that we're looking at is absolutely massive. And a lot of the ideas and concepts that will drive this kind of market growth, I don't think we've yet come across. I think we're probably just in the phase where we're discovering what that is and what it means to us. This other one I love too. So total available market for embedded CE devices is projected to grow at a CAGR of 41%. I don't know anything that's grown at that rate. But my point is, where I'm headed with this is, everything that can be connected will be connected. It will. Now, I don't know if you know where that quote came from. It was actually Frank Sinatra, and he was in some Vegas bar when he said it. Jokes aside, if anyone does know who's attributed to that, I would love to know, because I use it a lot, and I'd like to accredit the right person. And if I don't hear about who it is in the next 6 months, I'm going to claim it's mine, and that'll be it. But there's another piece to this that is rarely discussed. Chaos will reign. And my example with the iPad and the video conferencing over a laptop, all very lead-in, cutting-edge kind of technologies, proved how chaotic that is. So to address that, got a few panelists here tonight to take a few questions from the audience. Each one of our panelists has been in the bar. They've had several glasses of IQ and personality, so I'm sure they won't be shy if you've got any questions. What are you nodding at, Chuck? You had a few more than just... Yeah, okay. So what we'll do, I'm going to introduce them. We'll go alphabetically according to height, starting on the right and moving over to the left. If you could take a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself. Chuck, if you want to go first, and just, you know, who you are, your company, what you address in this marketplace.
Sure, I will. I'm Chuck Warren. I'm VP Products and Services for Core Telematics. Headquartered actually in Toronto, but we really run the company out of Atlanta. Core's been in the business in the... Turn this on? Pick that thing.
Just put it up to your mouth.
Test. So Core's been in this business for about 7 years. Now, who is Core? Core, let me put them in context. If you think about the M2M space, it's really 3 components. There's a network component, there's a device component, and there's an application component. And it takes those 3 components in order to deliver a solution. Core is network focused. That's all we do. We don't do solutions. We don't do applications. We don't build or sell hardware. We're simply a network enabler and provider. So our focus is providing global cellular and satellite network services on both the GSM and CDMA networks. That's what we do. Network, and network guys that are in here won't like me saying this. The network is close to a commodity. And what we have to do in order to differentiate and compete in the market is to build value-added services that we wrap around that network offering to differentiate ourselves from pure network commodities. So what Core does is build this portfolio of value-added services, and those services include things like network management tools and the ability to control your network in real time, to handle all of your network activations, your billing, your services, your plans, provide you the ability to integrate all of that capability into your business services. Right. So it's the network, and it's all the wrappers for managing those network services. That's what Core does.
Great. Steve Hudson, I'm VP of Strategy and Business Development for OmniLink Systems. We're a Alpharetta-based company, so just up 400. We've been around since about 2005, and what most people know us for is the company that tracks criminals. So we have an electronic monitoring product for an alternative to being in jail. And it's quite an amazing program, because if you were to look 5 years ago at the M2M space, there were some things that were ticking still in M2M. It was, low-end security AMR kind of things, and fleet was still quite good back then. The cost of network was high, the cost of devices were high. So what we did is we said, how can we go in and compete? We looked at the market and said, if we built a tracking solution that could be an answer to the pervasive problem of not being enough space in the jails for criminals, not being the best solution for people in jails, and having a reliable answer when they're out in society that people actually know where they are. Because having people out without really knowing where they are is not really a good thing either. So we took an approach to build a platform for that. It's a software platform. I would echo a lot of what Chuck said, in that to deliver it in this kind of an environment today with the fragmentation, you really need to kind of pull some of the solutions together for people. So we had to go out and get our own network agreement. We had to get our own device. We had to get our own application, which is really what we are at a core of the company. And then the services. And we'll talk about that more as a panel. But by delivering a complete solution and doing it in a disruptive manner really helped us get going. And you'll see more and more of OmniLink outside of criminal tracking as we are now applications for carriers to bill asset tracking for other solutions. We're a brand behind the National Alzheimer's Association for their senior care product, as well as Amber Watch for their child care. So the great thing about this is it's such a broad market. So we're really about enabling tracking for people or things that matter.
Great. Good evening. I'm Stuart Swanson with Numerex. For those of you that might not be familiar with Numerex, we're headquartered here in Marietta, about 145 employees. We have 1.3 million M2M subscribers right now. The company's actually 17 years old. I know a lot of you have roots back to Bell South in this room. You may remember a company, Bell South Telemetry. That was part of the early start of our company. It's now publicly traded, and it's gone through 17 years of transition. There's always been connectivity to the devices, primarily landline 17 years ago, moving to analog, wireless, and drive channels, and then of course now where we are with digital wireless. So the company's been through all phases, if you will, and we're completely focused on the mobility side of this now, the wireless side, including a satellite offering, traditional GSM and CDMA offerings. Chuck mentioned, and this is very true in the ecosystem for M2M, you're looking at solutions that have to have a device, they have to have network connectivity, and they have to have an application. The approach that Numerex took to the market is if that's the ecosystem, let's put the entire ecosystem under one roof. Let's be a one-stop shop and allow consumers, customers, enterprise to come to us and ask us to develop an M2M solution where we go out, we get the device, we get the sensors, we integrate the end-to-end solution on the device end. We have the network connectivity, we can manage the radio piece of it, the SIMs and the activations and deactivations. And then everybody knows what's happening now with cloud computing and everything moving to web service type activity. We're harnessing that and actually writing the applications and hosting the applications. And then if it's a device network application world, we then put a wrapper around it for professional services and for tier 1 customer care. And then we can go to market with a complete end-to-end solution. And that's what we're doing in the space now. Custom solution, customizable solutions, and we also have package solutions in telematics, home security, a number of offerings. But we try to do the full gambit. In a lot of cases, certain customers do only want a portion of that. We certainly work in that environment. But we have the ability to go A to Z and build the entire solution set.
Great, thanks. I'm Joe Byron from Exida. We are headquartered in Foxborough, Massachusetts, so I drove all the way here today for this.
Yeah, we were tracking you.
Yeah. I hope not all the time. So Exida we got our start about 12 years ago helping customers with big, expensive equipment that could not fail, helping them understand the status of those devices and those systems as they were deployed in their customers' environments. So we cut our teeth learning how to efficiently get diagnostics data, status data, and remotely control these devices, industrial devices, medical devices, etc. Something started to happen about 5 years ago where we started to see our customers ask us for solutions around wirelessly connected devices. So we had cut our teeth in learning how to navigate the firewall protocols and proxies and the network environments that would be deployed in a customer's corporate environment, or just imagine a network administrator of a hospital saying that, hey, I want to put this thing on your network, is that okay? So we learned how to navigate those troubled waters and make that network administrator of the hospital comfortable with our technology. But when we looked at the wireless side, it was clear that the wireline technology that worked on firewalls, HTTP, SSL, was not going to work in the wireless world. At the same time, on a parallel track, our customers from 12 years ago all the way up to the present day were using our software stack to troubleshoot and provide their technicians, their service technicians, ways to diagnose and remotely control and monitor their equipment. And we found that even though we kept putting work into our applications to make their jobs easier, there was always a little bit more that they needed to do. They needed to integrate with their CRM system. They needed to pull a feed from their ERP system. They needed to customize the workflow of the application. So we built hooks into our application platform. We built a rules engine to handle data as it's coming from devices, transform that data, notify people in a flexible way. We gave tools to the software developers in our customers' organizations to build those hooks into their CRM systems and Seabolts and the Oracle application stacks of the world. And as this was happening on the parallel track of the wireless revolution, we stepped back and we said, hey, you know what? What we've got here is not an application for remotely diagnosing equipment. What we've got here is a platform for building applications that are wired or wireless with any kind of connectivity.
If you look back at the Ericsson CEO's prediction, which was somewhat brave because I'm pretty sure he won't be CEO of Ericsson in 2020, but 50 million something devices, it will be somebody else that has got that problem. But so ecosystem plays, where do you guys see the strongest ecosystem play? And is there any specific vertical that attracts a more complicated versus a simple sale, a simple approach to go to market? Because ultimately we got to touch a customer, right? I mean, everybody's in the industry or in the business of having a one-on-one relationship with a customer. How's that going to work? How do you see it mapping out? Anybody want to take a chance?
Sure, I'll take a stab. So, of course, I'm coming from the tracking side. I'll have a better perspective there than some of the other areas of M2M. Who here in the room that's been involved in M2M or any kind of hardware development has ever been responsible for delivering a piece of hardware? Just raise your hand. Okay. Keep it raised if it came on time and budget. So we're in a new market where a lot of solutions are being deployed as purpose-built, closed-loop systems. People have to go out there and learn how to do things that aren't core to them, and then they're focused. We're a software company, and we had to go out and build an ankle bracelet because I can't just go and buy one off the shelf, and it had to work. So I think that's a common problem.
By the way, that number, whether it's 2 billion or 50 billion, the number's huge. When I look at it as a consumer right now, I have 4 telephones in my family, my wife, myself, my 2 kids, 4 phones. If you look at me in 2020, I'm going to have 4 phones, mine, my wife's, my kids. So we know traditional cellular mobility is flatlining, right? We're at 100% penetration. When I look at M2M as a consumer right now, I have an e-reader, I have 1 car with an M2M device in it. So I've got 2 devices. In 2020, I think myself as a consumer, I think my cars, my kids' cars will all have OBDs, will all have tablets with embedded. I think there absolutely is some certainty that the water meter, the gas meter, the electric meter at my house will probably have connectivity. There's no question the security system in my house is going to have an M2M connection. There's no doubt my Nike or Adidas tennis shoes are going to have an M2M module that track my training. I can see ski jackets with built-in M2M modules that the ski resorts used to track you. It doesn't end. And so in 2020, you're still going to have the same phone, but you will have 10 or 20 M2M devices.
Well, as an application development company, as an application platform company, we want to be hardware and network agnostic. It's in our best interest, of course, to be able to play with all that hardware, to be able to play with any of those networks. But we have to understand how that stuff works so we can make our customers successful. I have to know if you're on an 8-bit microcontroller or if you're on a 1.2 gigahertz Intel super duper Intel Atom. I have to know what you're doing so they can figure out what's the best solution for you, and I have to know how to play nicely on the network. So from a technical perspective, we've got a lot to learn about how to work nicely together. Modules need to talk on the network in a well-behaved manner. Applications need to know the right way to communicate back to the modem, how to ask the modem for information. We're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way, just like internet and web applications made a lot of mistakes along the way. So get ready, but we have to do it very carefully.
I'm not going to pay a monthly fee to connect my refrigerator, and another one for my security system, and another one for my irrigation system, etc., etc. So the underlying telecommunications service business model has to change in order to hit these kinds of numbers. I don't know what that's going to look like. Nobody, and I'm sure the AT&T and Verizon guys are thinking about it. They'd love to have 50 billion connected devices, and they'd love to have 50 billion subscriptions. But that'll never happen. You'll never be able to deploy it and pay a subscription per month, per device, and the market grow. 1 point on the network side. On the device side, the model has to change. If you want to connect 50 billion devices, you cannot connect them aftermarket.
Yeah, it's kind of where I was going with that, the 50 billion number. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my mailbox is full with bills anyway. I don't need any more from a bunch more devices that people are connecting to my house. However, the reality is that if we're going to see anything like that kind of penetration, you're absolutely right. The business models are going to have to change. You can't process the amount of bills attached to that amount of device. It's simply not possible. Now, I think kind of the interesting thing is, and there's probably somebody in this room that can correct me, but I don't know, just a gut check feel. I go back 10 years, what I was spending on communications and TV. All right, didn't have the internet then, but I was spending a lot more on TV. And I fast forward to today, and I had a home phone as well. And that number feels surprisingly similar to the one I'm paying today. It's just a different mix of stuff on that bill. But anyway, food for thought.
It's an enclosed environment which could be done over Wi-Fi, for example, versus your skier, your fleet tracking, your individual tracking. I mean, those must be completely different segments. One would think is free, and I'm thinking the same as the iPad model. Wi-Fi only versus 3G connectivity payout every month. You know, he probably doesn't pay a subscription. That's why he knocked his wife off the network, you know. So, you know, it is significant to your point about business models, you know, paying subscriptions every month versus the other connectivity.
Yeah, let's talk about money. Where is the money in M2M? You know, is it the carriers or, you know, VARs or hardware manufacturers or, you know, all those research companies who are putting out countless white papers? So where is the money?
Love it. So we've kind of narrowed down on the customer and what the customer might have. You want to know where the beef is. Awesome. Where's the beef? Thank you very much to our panelists for taking the time, fielding the questions, and answering them the way that you have. I think I'm going to hand back to Bob in a second right now, but we're done. I've had fun doing this. I hope you've learned something this afternoon or this evening, and it's been useful. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.